Now, I open the show by showing our politicians destroying our electricity system with some insane superstition that coal's a killer. But that's just part of the left's wider hatred of this society and how it works. And your money is being used to spread that hate. So, well, actually, so is the money of this company, News Corp. Well, this latest example is Adelaide's Writers' Week, starting next Saturday week. So far, the media criticism has focused on two of the many Palestinians surprisingly invited to speak there, including Susan Abdulhawa, who has smeared Israel as worse than the Nazis and called Israelis human garbage. She's also called Ukraine's president, who's Jewish, a depraved Zionist. The Writers' Week also stars Mohammed El-Kurd, who claims Israelis have an unquenchable thirst for Palestinian blood, and told pro-Israeli protesters, if you heckle me, you will get shot. So we've got anti-Israeli, anti-Jewish, sponsored now with taxpayers' money. But the whole week really is a carnival of left-wing hatred, using money of all South Australian taxpayers and from the Advertiser, a News Corp publication, a Murdoch newspaper, which is strange given one session of this Writers' Week as a Murdoch hater, Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young, giving her take on media moguls like Rupert Murdoch. But speaking of her, the Writers' Week is filled with left-wing politicians. Former Labor Premiers Bob Carr, Steve Bracks, Labor President Wayne Swan, former Labor Minister Gareth Evans, former Labor speechwriter Don Watson, former Labor advisor Ann Summers, several biographers of Labor politicians too, and former Greens leader Bob Brown. And then there's ABC crawling around. There's only one former Liberal MP who's been invited, and that's Amanda Vanstone. She's from the Liberal left. And she's been asked to talk just about cooking, not politics, because, of course not, because the topics are about how rotten Australia really is. I won't go through the whole list, but for instance, there's an Australian Muslim who said she won't condemn the violence of the Muslim extremists who tried to stab two people in Melbourne and murdered a restaurateur. But she does condemn our supposedly patriarchal, racist, capitalist social order. Another session will, of course, discuss what our organisers say is our shameful national past. Another, holding white Australia to account. And, of course, what's Writers' Festival without a session telling us global warming really is a terrible threat. And another session with billionaire's son, Simon Holmes a Court, on how the Teal independents that he funded at the last election are our saviours. You've got to wonder, how is this nonsense, this total wall-to-wall leftism and this self-hatred of our alienated elite funded by taxpayers and the Murdoch media? Joining me on Culture Wars is Rowan Dean, editor of The Spectator Australia and host of Outsiders on Sky News on Sundays at 9 a.m. Rowan, why are we funding this?
Well, we're funding it because we fund all these things. Taxpayers normally fork out for them, and companies increasingly go along with it because they are all jumping on the woke bandwagon. But the good news, Andrew, I always like to have some positive good news for you. I sent off an application form this afternoon because to the Adelaide Writers' Festival. As you know, I've written a couple of books myself, so I'm pretty confident they're going to take up my idea, and I'm going to MC the event. I'm going to be hosting a special with Sarah Hanson-Young on why the voice is racist. I think that should be pretty good. I'm doing a panel on why the two-state solution can never work because the Palestinians don't want it. I think that's going to be an absolute corker. And my special seminar, which has got slides and a PowerPoint presentation, it starts off from the moment I came out of the womb. I'm held up and the doctor says, it's a boy, and it traces through my childhood where I was playing with trucks and cowboys and Indians, goes through to the teenage years where, there may have been a couple of girls, kind of I fancied and might have, gone after. Then it goes through to adulthood, getting married and having children of your own. And it's called Trapped in the Correct Body. And I think it's going to be a big hit. And I reckon the Adelaide Writers' Festival they're just going to be blown away. So I'm booking my tickets to Adelaide. I reckon I'll be on the next flight, Andrew.
I think I probably am the last Conservative to be invited to a Writers' Festival, the Melbourne one. It got sold out. I was debating on the Stolen Generations. But something about that experience for them made them decide never again, I think. Because I think I rather did all right. But anyway, that's just self-praise. But the thing is, I often wonder, Rowan, imagine where the left would be if it didn't have taxpayer-funded money to essentially steal for its own purposes. So the ABC, SBS, The Conversation, Writers' Festivals. If we didn't fund any of that specifically and they couldn't hijack it for the left, where would they be?
Well, they would disappear. And this is the great tragedy. It is theft. You're right to call it theft. It's theft from the Australian taxpayer. The money could be spent, this idea that we should be funding the arts, that disappeared long ago. All we fund is left-wing political activism. And the great tragedy is you expect this of Labor governments. You expect this at both the state and federal level whenever the left are in power. It happens ruthlessly. What you would hope would be the counterbalance would be that whenever there was a Conservative or coalition government, they would strip away the funding and they would put the money into promoting events that did the opposite. But they don't. They run scared, or else they carry on funding this same sort of stuff. So it is the long march through the institutions. As I said before, it's not a long march, it's an occupation. The left now occupies so many of our institutions. The simple answer for any coalition government with even just a smidgen of bravery, just a smidgen of courage, would be to pull the plug one by one on these ghastly neo-Marxist, anti-conservative, anti-Christian, anti-democratic, and certainly anti-Australian events.
Yes, they're feeding the enemy and they don't dare say boo. Rowan Dean, thank you so much for your time.